Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Dicktember. This is a BookTube event I'm involved with. I'm one of the co-hosts, along with Mark at Booktime with Elvis, and Sean D. Standfast, and Michael K. Vaughn, where we're reading about gumshoes, house dicks, private eyes, for the whole month of September. I view it as kind of an adjunct event, a worshipful on my own part adjunct event to another BookTube event, a much older BookTube event, of which I'm also usually a host, which is Mark's Mystery Madness. Where we read all things mystery of all kinds. But that's not for months yet. I love my murder mystery, so I was very happy to sign on board for this one, which celebrates one sliver of the murder mystery experience, which is private eyes. Paid or unpaid. And I have been having a blast. These things are private eye books are very easy to read. I've been rereading them. And the book that I read today was one that I'm showing you a picture, but I found a print copy that I didn't remember to put in for the video here. It's just delightful. It's from 1940. It's called Unexpected Night by Elizabeth Daly. And it is a murder mystery in which we have an amateur sleuth. So the very bone of contention for a few videos earlier. He's not paid for his services. Henry Gamage is his name. And he is a rare book dealer. He's a thoroughly bookish person. And in this, the premise of this novel is that there is a young man is found dead at the bottom of a cliff. He was an heir to a great fortune, and there are a whole bunch of people who have their fingers in those pies or would like to. So there's a plentitude of suspects. If it was indeed murder, then it seems likely. People don't end up at the foot of cliffs in murder mystery novels innocently. They end up at the foot of cliffs in real life innocently all the time. All the time. If you are ever tempted to get that killer selfie on some remote rock ledge in the Azores or whatever, don't do it. Don't do it. For every one of those selfies that you see on Instagram and go, ooh and ah, isn't that cool? There are 10 dead people. But Elizabeth Daly is another example of a murder mystery writer who came to the craft out of necessity. She wrote all sorts of things. She wrote, we'll never get her collected works. I'm sure that 90% of the work that isn't these murder mystery novels, I'm sure that 90% of that work is not collected and not collectible anymore. Gone, in other words. But she's another example of the kind of writer in this genre who came to this because it made money. And as a small note of encouragement to all of you incredible procrastinating writers out there, and what other kind of writer is there, this book of hers, this first Gamage novel, was a success. People loved it. They loved the main character. They loved her voice, which is very fun, but also extremely intelligent. It's like it. I had an old friend who used to say that these novels read like the kind of prose that Dorothy Sayers would write if she were a little tight, if she were a little bit, had too many martinis, and then wrote one of her Lord Peter books, that this would be that. Not in the sense that they're sloppy, but in the sense that they are playful and very precise in their verbiage and in the actual rhetoric. Just utterly delightful to read. I'd completely forgotten how much I love this author. Again, as with so many of the authors that I've been reading for Dicktember, my main temptation now will be to reread all of the Gamage books in the month of September when I want to reread widely and read widely. I don't want it to just go back to old favorites. But you procrastinating writers out there, when she had a hit with this book, and it went on, there were many, many other adventures of this character. When she wrote this first book, she was 60. She had a late start in this sort of thing and still had a hit series on her hands. So it can happen to you, but time's wasted. Best to get to it. But this was utterly delightful, and it brought me up against a lot of the Jesuitical stuff that I've been bringing up, because the main character here is just good at solving mysteries. He's not expecting to be paid for his work, and he definitely doesn't work in connection with the police. And much like with Hilda Adams, much like with having your sleuth as a sort of a practicing nurse, believe it or not, Elizabeth Daly works in ways that Gamage's actual profession might help him in parsing clues and solving crimes. it's not belabored. It's not, who was the name? John Dunning was another murder mystery author who also set his in the world or in the character of rare book dealers, rare book collectors. He laid that on a lot thicker. The Death of a Joyce Scholar, I think, was one of his, or no, that was Bartholomew Gill, not Dunning. I don't remember the name of Dunning's first book. Everybody loved it. I loved it. I can't remember the name of it though. But this is not quite as bad as that. This is a lot lighter touch. It's delightful, just absolutely delightful. The type of thing where, I mean, when you're reading private eye novels, often you're thinking, okay, well, this is awful thin stuff. I mean, I'll stick around because I want to figure out if I'm clever enough to guess what happened. But as a reading experience, no. And unfortunately, that is a besetting sin of genre fiction just in general, not just murder mysteries, but any kind of genre fiction, is that lazy or untalented genre writers know that the genre will be doing some of the work for them. You write a shoot-'em-up space opera with multiple planets and multiple races and whatnot. Even if you're capable of doing a lot of extra work on that to make it your best writing possible, even if you're capable of that level of writing, you might decide to give it a miss, and your fans will read it anyway. Because they like a lot of those trappings. They like a lot of the genre trappings. That's true in any genre. And so it's always extra fun when you encounter an author who is giving you a real fun time, a real good reading experience, in addition to the whodunit and the clues and the red herrings and whatnot. The aforementioned Dorothy Sayers does that all the time. Patricia Wentworth does that all the time. Marjorie Allingham does that all the time. The Campion novels are just a perfect example of that from start to finish. And this does that. I don't know why this isn't as well remembered. Elizabeth Daly, as far as I know, is not in print. As far as I know, has not been in print in a long time. Never crops up on lists. If anybody back in the 1950s, she would have been right at the top of a lot of those lists. She was praised by other mystery authors who really liked her stuff. For Dicktember, it was a delight to read this again. Delightful. To all of the suspects are all sort of creeps and hams and have cheesy dialogue, and the dearly departed was also nothing to write home about. Not a creep, but light in the mental department, to put it that way. So that it's a, what's the word that I want? What's the concept that I want is that it's a stakes-free murder mystery, and those are always great. Those are always great. That's one of the appeals of, for instance, so-called cozy murder mysteries, is that usually it's somebody that everybody hated who gets killed. Or the dead body, the dead person is dead in such a hilarious way, an outlandish way, that you are shielded from the tragedy of personal death. And maybe, I don't really know, maybe nowadays this would qualify as a cozy mystery. It could be. I was overjoyed with rediscovering this. It's been decades since I read this. So, unlike some other BookTube events that I could name, Dicktember is going quite well for me. And we have a long time to go. We have 20 days. It's more. So I will wrap this up for now, and we'll see what my next discovery is. Thank you, BookTube.